The impressive store of general knowledge that Williams had acquired during his drive to educate himself finally found a public outlet in 1968. He was invited to appear on Just a Minute, the radio game show in which panelists talk for 1 minute on a given subject without hesitation, deviation or repetition.
I think Just a Minute was one of his favourite jobs, because not only could he show off and ad-lib and be impromptu and have this sort of rapport with the audience, it gave him a wonderful means of expression for his comedy work and also to show off his erudition and learning.
The subject is stopping hiccups. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
One of the best tips I can give you is to inhale deeply and then recite a long piece, such as the old order changes the replaced new, and God fulfills himself in many ways as one good custom should corrupt the world. Comfort thyself, what comfort is in me? I have lived my life, and which I have done may he with himself may feel, but thou.
Peter Jones, the challenge.
You'd be better off with the hiccups. So, before the programme started, Kenneth would go, "Hello, I don't like all this, oh no, I'm a cult, everybody knows, stick his bottom right out. I'm a cult, I'm a great big cult, I'm the biggest cult in the whole of the BBC, and they come and sit down. Kenneth always sat here, Freud there, Peter Jones there, myself over there, and as the programme started, and Freud might be talking in his very slow, lugubrious way, I took this dog out for a walk yesterday. Kenneth, by this time, would have his trousers rolled up and be flaunting his leg under Freud's nose and Freud's face, and then go over and nuzzle him up against his beard, stroking him, and Freud would still go on without being interrupted at all, in a very slow way, looking straight ahead as though Kenneth didn't exist. Now, Kenneth, by this time, would be looking at his mother. She always sat 2 rows back in exactly the same seat.
Lovely, oh, wonderful.
And however rude he might be, everything went straight to his mother.
He was ejaculating like mad there.
If the show was going poorly, he would be looking up at the box, and he could tell when the audience weren't with it. And he would look up at the box to me, and I would simply go like that, and Ken would take his cue, and off he'd go, and he'd say, "I haven't come here all the way from
Great Cornwall, and I'm not here to be made fun of. Do you think I'm some object of ridicule? Do you think that's what I am?"
And he'd get the audience absolutely falling about, and he'd keep looking at the box, and if I went down, he'd sit down and start playing the game again. So he could lift it any time he liked. I've never come across an artist who could pick up 250 people like that and drop them like that at his own whim. It was wonderful.
Keeping a stiff upper lip starting now.
I have actually tried this myself, and inevitably one comes to resemble a ventriloquist dummy. If you
Just a Minute was more than just a game show to Williams. It was his chance to show a side of himself that he really cared about. And his anger at being contradicted was often all too real.
Well, it's the subjects you're supposed to discuss, you great fool!
What sound as if they start off as fantasy rages end up sounding more like real rages, and those performances were quite strange sometimes, because you felt, should this be being broadcast? This is too authentic to be entertainment anymore.
It is a rope.
He was giving an example of how this word...
Arbuckle is a rope. It can't be a knot. It's a rope. It's got to go up and down. A knot can't go up and down. What are you talking about? A knot's for tying, you great nit.
But in real life, Williams could be far ruder and far angrier.
I remember once a friend of mine from the country said, "Oh, Kenneth, how nice to see you. What are you doing now?" What am I doing? I happen to be appearing with Ingrid Bergman at the Cambridge Theatre. You bald-headed country bumpkin.
There was something desperate to come out of Kenneth, always, something inside him. And so his defense mechanism was to attack.
He said outrageous things, awful things, cruel things, vicious things. He may have meant them at the time, he may not have meant them at the time, he may not have meant them 3 minutes later. And that you had to know and accept. He could say ghastly, impossible things to you, use the foulest language. But don't worry about it, because the next morning it was all over. Indeed, the next minute it was possibly all over. But some people found it too much to take.
He was glad to have been as bad as he was sometimes, because at least he was imposing himself on the world in that way. He wasn't being its victim. He had become a formidable presence in some way, and people would look at that and they'd think, gosh, this is a sort of person that we don't otherwise come across.
Even members of the public could find themselves at the receiving end of a Williams outburst. He related one such incident in a message left on a friend's answer phone.
I did that just a minute yesterday. Oh, it was awful. Some dreadful man came up onto the stage after and said, "Do you fulfill the strictures of Lord R.I.P, who said that everything should be for the greater glory of Christianity?" I said, "Oh, shut up." I said, "People like you wear me out." And he said, bless you, my son, God's bless." I said, "Don't give me that crap. I don't want to hear it. I will pray for you." I said, "Don't bother. As your presence here today has been embarrassing. You cause nothing but vexation, like so many of your religious friends."
Williams grew to hate the attention he received from the public in the street, regarding it as a painful intrusion into his privacy.
I feel the bleeding going on inside. Every day I die more consciously. The staring, the stopping in the street, the nudging of people when they recognize me, my fear of them, my hate of them, my desire to get away from their prying eyes.
His efforts to escape prying eyes could result in some bizarre behavior, especially in restaurants.
When I arrived, I couldn't see him anywhere in this quite crowded restaurant. And he had waiters construct around the table, I don't know, kind of series of screens. And when you went into the little screened area, it was shut, as it were, so that you two were alone in what was like a kind of tent, and outside the noise of this very busy restaurant. He didn't want to be looked at.
Although one part of Williams shrank from public curiosity, his ego needed reassuring that he had been recognised.
This is Biagge's, one of Kenneth's favourite restaurants. Came here many times with him. Used to bring all of his show business friends here. And Kenny always used to ask for this table over in the corner, where he used to sit with his back to the room. Because he said, "I don't want to be bothered with people. I just want to be left alone to have a quiet evening with my friends." But of course that was impossible with Kenneth, because as the evening went on and the stories got louder, and as he began to entertain everybody, so the whole room would join in and became like a great big party.
We were going somewhere quiet, somewhere in the Fulham Road, I think it was. Because it was quiet, he said. "Must you play so blasted loud and hardly ever so think?" And it was quiet until Kenneth started. "Go on!" We got halfway through the meal. Everybody in the restaurant knew who it was.
"Miss Fosdick really looks quite gay, doesn't she?"
And as soon as he'd got them all in his grasp, he said, "Oh, come on. I'm fed up with this. Can't stand these people." And we left halfway through the meal.
Williams owed his high public profile to the Carry On films, but their success was trapping him in a stereotype.
His tragedy, in a way, was he was too clever for the material, and he knew he was repeating himself. He knew that he was doing really a lot of inferior stuff in among the good work.
"What do you want?"
"The one who calls himself Dandy Desmond."
"That's him."
He was insulted by every script he was sent because he thought nobody understood that he was really a much better actor.
"Which one of you is looking for Big Dick?"
"He is."
I turned to the shooting script of the Carry On, which arrived yesterday. If anything, it is worse than the previous version. It is appalling. It lacks verbal wit, it lacks comic situation, it lacks any credible characters. It is a carry-on.
Anybody who starts with Orson Welles must have a tremendous sense of what's possible and then to finish up in, you know, Carry On number 42, is not really a career move upwards.
Your days are numbered. Beware the Ides of March! Oh, shut up, you silly old faggot.
He felt trapped by his voice, by what he did, by the fact that everybody just said, oh, go on, do a Kenneth Williams.